A dark and traumatic day in the United States as yet another school shooting has taken place, this time in Southern California, that claimed the lives of two students, a 16-year-old girl and a 14-year-old boy. Now, the shooting began before the classes started at Saugus High School in Santa Clarita. The suspected shooter was a student himself who turned 16 just yesterday. Police said that he used a .5 caliber pistol to shoot 5 of his classmates before turning the gun on himself. The attack claimed the lives of 2 students and injured 3 others. Police have described the gunman as an Asian male student who was dressed in all black. Now, the police soon cordoned off the school and evacuated students from the area. The gunshots reportedly were heard 20 minutes before class and left the students in a complete state of shock. Some of them resorted to fleeing the school premises while others took cover within their classes. Once the police arrived at the scene, they found 6 students to be injured, one of them being the gunman himself. 2 of the students succumbed to their injuries while at the hospital. Authorities have revealed that the condition of the shooter is also extremely grave. Now, the police are trying to determine what triggered the 16-year-old to commit such a heinous crime, and that too on his birthday. Detectives have already started interrogating the suspected gunman's parents and his girlfriend. What you can see are the latest aerial shots that we are getting from the Saugus High School premises. As you can see, the entire high school is in a state of lockdown. Most of the students flee and took cover. The remaining were, of course, taken out of the school premises. Now, the attack has also fueled the debate on gun control laws in the United States and in the growing incidents of gunfire in school campuses. According to a gun control advocacy group, this was the 85th school shooting in the United States this year. For more details, let's quickly go across to our reporter William Denslow, who's reporting live from New York at this hour. William, this is indeed extremely disturbing, but it's become a repeated phenomena in the United States. 2 dead and 3 injured. What's the latest that you're picking from your sources about the victims as of now?
Well, very few pieces of information coming through at this time. Law enforcement staying rather tight-lipped on the identifications of the suspect as well as the victims. What we do understand, though, is that these victims were all aged between the ages of 14 and 16. According to Captain Kent Wagner, just speaking at a press conference really moments ago, he came out and said that he'd watched a video of the shooting taking place. He said that just in the space of 16 seconds, the shooter entered the quad on campus where he managed to shoot and kill 2 of these victims. He shot and wounded another 3 before turning the gun on himself. I reiterate, just 16 seconds, according to the captain, that this tragic event unfolded.
All right, William, if you could also throw light on the identity and the motive behind this entire shooting, the identity of the suspect.
Well, as you said, an Asian student, 16 years of age. It was his birthday, as you so rightly mentioned. In terms of any kind of motive, absolutely no signs coming through as of yet. There were reports of on social media that he'd released a video that has been altered since then, so investigators looking into what exactly that means, and will be looking onto whether that sheds any kind of light into his motive. Of course, as you rightly mentioned, they're questioning the suspect's girlfriend as well as the parents, and looking through his home, which was relatively close to the school as well, just trying to find any kind of clues as to what would make someone carry out this kind of act. But as at the moment, as things stand, the message from law enforcement and from investigators that they're still very much compiling what happened. Now the next question for them is why it happened.
All right, why it happened is going to be the next question. Has the law enforcement agency or any of the authorities in Los Angeles come out with any sort of official statement?
Well, they've been giving regular press updates to try and give a sense of what exactly happened, how the time frame manifested and to try and release what details they do have available. What we've just heard is that we have had a press conference moments ago where these revelations that there is a video that police are going through to really shed some light onto what exactly happened and just the short time frame that this all happened. And as I mentioned, 16 seconds according to Captain Wagner that this event transpired. But as of yet, law enforcement very tight-lipped and are still trying to compile why this was indeed the case, how it happened and why it happened on the suspect's alleged 16th birthday.
Right, William, this is indeed extremely tragic. Now, let's look at the entire situation in the United States. In some states like Alaska, Minnesota or New York State, you can sell a rifle to someone over the age of 16. Let's not forget the suspect turned 16 on Thursday, and this shooting only arrives as a reminder of those multiple school massacres that have already happened this year alone.
Absolutely. Of course, it won't be long until these tragic events do get politicised, as they almost always do, and it'll be surprising if anything to the contrary happens this time, unfortunately, in the United States. We have heard from the President, who has offered his deepest condolences. He says that he's continuing to monitor the situation, but of course it's important to add that in California, it's a state that has one of the strictest gun control laws in the entirety of the United States. In 1989, it became the first state to ban assault weapons, for example. It was one of the first states to enact what's called a red flag gun law, which essentially means that it gives the power to the likes of students and teachers and law enforcement to take the guns out of people's hands that they deem to be at risk. So California might be what is described as progressive in the United States when it comes to enacting strict gun control policies. But of course, there have been numerous accounts of mass shootings in the state as well as across the country. Of course, in July there was a mass shooting at a garlic festival in July. Someone that brought in an AK-47 type rifle into this festival, killing 3 people. That was brought across state lines from Nevada. So it seems that regardless of how stringent the gun control laws are in certain states, there do seem to be cases across the country, regardless of just how strict they are. But of course, Democrats and Republicans remain incredibly divided as to how best get the issue of gun control under control.
Politicization apart, William, they're certainly not strict enough to be controlling this. Let's not also forget that most of the mass shootings have been taking place in these school premises. What are the policies for these schools? Are there any laws in place when it comes to protecting the students?
Well, there are certainly a number of laws, and it does somewhat differ from state to state. But in terms of one common theme is to, of course, not allowing weapons on school properties. Some states and some schools have different provisions when it comes to having metal detectors in these schools. We understand that this particular school in question didn't. It had a number of security checks. It had security officers on site and a number of gates to get into the building. Of course, in other states and in other individual schools, they have stricter metal detector, stricter screening. So that's one potential avenue that some schools have tried to go down to try and clamp down on gun violence. Of course, there have been calls in the United States, including from President Trump himself, that have suggested potentially seeing teachers armed with firearms themselves. So that's a potential avenue that has been discussed. Of course, there has been plenty of pushback, especially from Democrats that believe that putting more guns into the school environment would be detrimental.
All right, certainly there seems to have been a lapse as far as security measures are concerned. And of course, stricter policies need to be in place when it comes to controlling the ownership of guns. For now, thank you so much, William, for bringing us all those details. We'll keep coming back to you as and when more developments take place.